Hi, friends, and welcome to the Story Forge podcast. I'm Lyle Smith, your host, and we're still calling this series of conversations Outbreak Edition because we're all still dealing with the effects of the coronavirus outbreak as both a health and economic crisis. We're all still trying to navigate what we each consider important right now and how we might help each other survive and thrive and press on to understand whatever comes next. And that's what's so important right now, helping. To say out loud, I want to help people. I want to give back. I want to change the world for the better. Some of the best, most inspirational leaders out there say the key to success is not a product or a service, but a solution. When what you're offering solves a problem for someone else, that's when you can say, I'm setting out to change the world, and really mean it. And that's the kind of person I have a conversation with today. Qaadirah Abdur Rahim truly is a world changer. Qaadirah is the CEO of Future Foundation in Atlanta. Future Foundation is a not-for-profit endeavor founded by Qaadirah's brother, NBA star Sharif Abdur Rahim. And the idea was simple. Find a way to give back to the Fulton County neighborhoods in Atlanta where they and their siblings grew up. Neighborhoods that have just a 43 to 45% high school graduation rate. Find a way to help other young people get prepared to succeed in life in an environment that was failing many of them. It began as basically an after-school support program, a safe place for their students to go after school to get some guidance, some tutoring, some mentoring. And it worked. And it has grown. With Qaadirah as its driving force, Future Foundation has gone from just a couple of employees to now about 50, 8 locations around those same Atlanta neighborhoods, about 1,000 students every year who now have what Qaadirah and her team call a second family. They have a place to go with that same tutoring, mentoring, and guidance, but they also have opportunities generated by volunteers from all over the city. Internships, face-to-face interactions, opportunities to see what they might become that they maybe never knew existed before. They have a new frame of reference. And since Future Foundation began in 2004, this program has maintained a 100% graduation rate. Every one of their enrolled students graduates and goes on to something beyond high school. And that is success, no matter how you measure it. So here's my conversation with Qaadirah Abdur Rahim. So this week, we've been hearing in the news the governor of Georgia doing a lot of talking about reopening the economy. So I've been thinking about you, and you know, how are things? And your mayor still encouraging people to stay at home and be careful and all that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So there's some sort of conflict in messaging coming from different areas of your government. So I was thinking about you, and I thought I have to ask, how are things going for you and Atlanta, and what's it like up there?
Atlanta has a rich history of being extremely resilient, and I think we are seeing that resilience come to fruition today during this crisis. And I think we are getting a lot of mixed messaging, but I think a lot of people are also looking at data and making the decisions that are important for their families and their workforce at this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I've been talking to people in all kinds of different parts of the country. I talked to a friend from my agency days in New York City, and he lives across the street or around the corner from one of the big hospitals in Queens. And you know, they go out for a walk in the evening, and they hear all the applause for the hospitals at 7 o'clock and all that. Mm-hmm. And I talked to a friend in California, and they're pretty much staying, you know, in their, if not in their house, in their yard. Mm-hmm. You know, how about you?
Well, I will tell you this. I'm pretty much, because I am looking at the data. As you know, I'm a very data-driven person.
Absolutely.
And I am looking at the data, and because of that data, I am staying very close to home. I don't know if you know this. I recently got married a couple of months ago. So I'm a newlywed. And
Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
I was not aware of that.
Yes.
Very good. Congratulations.
Thank you. And so I'm living with my husband now, and he's a golfer, and he's been trying to get out of the house to play golf. And, I'm just really not encouraging him leaving to go play golf or anything like that. So we are really staying very close to home, and we get out for the occasional walk and stuff, but, we're staying close to home.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. We do sort of neighborhood bike rides and stuff like that, but we really stay away from everybody else. And, a little bit of sunlight and fresh air is a good thing, but
it's good. But I think there's so much unknown about this virus. It's, for 2 months, you don't have to wear masks. You don't have to do this. And then a couple of months later, it's different messaging. So I think we're hearing different messaging from really all aspects of this situation. So government, health, and because we don't know much and because it can change, it just might be important to stay close to home. In fact, the state is opening up, but we as an organization probably will not go back to work until June 1st.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that all kind of makes sense to me. Well, let's talk about your organization. You are the CEO of the Future Foundation. How about you tell me what is it, and what was it created to achieve?
Well, Future Foundation was founded back in 2001 by my brother, Abdur, Rahim, who is an ex-NBA player and now the president of the G League. And when Sharif and I got to college, we went to the same university, University of California, Berkeley, and we went at the same time. So we were both freshmen at the same time. And we got there and we were just completely unprepared to compete academically. And so it was during the summer of our freshman year that Sharif said, gosh, this is just so hard. If we ever get an opportunity, or if I ever get an opportunity, I want to go back to Atlanta and start something that are going to support children who look like me, to make sure they finish high school and have the support to go to some type of post-secondary institution. Mm-hmm. And so in 2001, Sharif founded Future Foundation, and we are very much focused on leveling the playing field for kids in Atlanta and helping them break the cycle of generational poverty.
Right. And you guys are doing an amazing job. I know, because I've done a little bit of work for you over the years, and it's so I know your story a bit. And the thing that knocks me out every single time is because we're talking about neighborhoods with a high school graduation rate in the 40s, 43, 45%. Mm-hmm. And your operation, Future Foundation participants, family members, I guess. Second family members.
They are our family members, yes.
Right. Have a 100% graduation rate. So they all graduate high school and go on to something else, mm-hmm. which is extraordinary to me. I mean, it's success by any measure. So, I mean, it's a phenomenal organization you guys have created there, and grown from a couple of people in an office to last time I spoke, it was about 40 or so people. No.
So it's about 50 people now.
Excellent.
So we grew it from 2 to 50. And then we started off with servicing about 15 kids. And I mean, I remember in 2010, we closed the year servicing 5,000 kids and families. So we've downsized since 2010 to servicing about 1,000 kids annually. But our reach over time has been very expansive, and we're continuing to grow. Excellent. We have about 8 after-school sites now. When I started, we had 1. So this is my 17th year, at Future Foundation. I can't believe it. It's been a long time, but it's been a lot of wonderful and very impactful work. And I've seen a lot of kids grow up from middle school to now adults and having families of their own. So I'm seeing the return of investment of this work back into our communities in very impactful ways.
Right. Fantastic. That's great. So so Sharif, your brother, tell me the story. I'm just going to ask you to tell me the story because he was a basketball player
yes.
of some skill. Who
of a large skill.
Yes.
A large skill, yes.
Who eventually was offered scholarships to a variety of different colleges, and he honed in on Berkeley to go to. And so you both ended up going there at the same time. Tell me that story. Tell me how that happened.
Okay, so Sharif and I we're in the same grade since the 6th grade. So we went from middle school all through high school together in the same grade. And Sharif was a big basketball player in the state of Georgia. So he won Mr. Georgia basketball, I think maybe 2 years in a row. I was also a pretty big track and field athlete. So I got recruited. He got recruited.
What did you run?
I ran the 400 and the 800.
Very good.
And occasionally the 1500, and also ran cross country. And so we have been athletes our entire lives. I probably have been running since the age of 5. Sharif has probably been playing basketball since the age of 4 or 6. Who knows? But our entire lives. In fact, our parents told all of us, I have 4 other siblings, you guys all will go to college on some type of athletic scholarship. And we did. And so Sharif and I were both slated to go to Georgia Tech because that's where we wanted to go. I was going to go on a track scholarship. He was going to go on a basketball scholarship. We'd always been together since middle school. And then a young African-American coach came and seduced him away. I mean, we had a lot of high-profile coaches in our living room that summer. From everywhere you could think, North Carolina, Duke, everybody, Arkansas, everybody was there. And this young African-American coach, Todd Bozeman, came and seduced him away to Cal Berkeley. And Sharif went for a visit and fell in love. And because it was the first time that we were perhaps going to be separated, he said, hey, my sister is a really good track and field runner. Do you think your track and field coach can look at her tapes? And they did, and offered me a scholarship too. Fantastic. And so that's how we both got out there. And I had never visited California, so Sharif went on the customary visit. I had never gone, but because he said he was going and we should go together, I said, okay. And I threw away all of my coats and jackets and all of my warm clothing because I thought I was going to sunny California. And I got there and was freezing. So.
And you learned that Mark Twain said the coldest winter he ever spent was a summer in San Francisco.
Exactly.
But I love that story. I think that's fantastic. Just that you would have that kind of relationship with your brother, or your brother would have that kind of relationship with you, that he would think to say, yeah, let's see if we can do that. And that's just fantastic to me. So that's, 3,000 plus miles away to a place you've never been. The East Coast and the West Coast are very different places. What was that like for you?
It was a huge culture shock. And, you say that the East Coast versus West Coast, but you also have to throw in there the South, right? So I'm coming from the South, going to a very, very, very diverse place with lots of different cultures. And it was definitely a culture shock. But I would say maybe only a culture shock for about 1 to 2 months. And then I fell in love.
Right.
I mean, I absolutely fell in love. And for anyone who has been to the Bay Area, anyone who lives in the Bay Area, it is just a majestical place, surrounded by mountains and water and a beautiful group of people that, and you can't help but fall in love with that place. So, in fact, I never thought I would move back to Atlanta because I loved it so much.
Right.
So I still have dreams of going back.
Someday.
At some point. Yeah, someday.
Well, when you scale the Future Foundation to be in every neighborhood that needs it across the country.
I like that idea.
Don't laugh.
I'm not laughing. That is an idea, and that is a vision, because this whole notion of the world being a village to one another or a second family is critical. And I think people are seeing that more with this COVID-19 crisis more than ever.
Right.
People need a second family, and people need help and support to rely on, because a lot of people are either alone, like the elderly, and or living in poverty-stricken conditions, and without someone checking in on them, negative things may be happening that don't have to happen to them, like being able to have a healthy meal.
Right. I mean, these are all real things, and I think what's going on now with the pandemic, and the stay-at-home orders, and the shifting of schools to online education out of pure necessity. I mean, it's just bringing all of those issues right up to the surface for everybody to see, and people can't ignore them anymore. Because there's a lot of people who just, who don't understand or have never seen it. They think, oh, well, it's 2020. It's not, 1950 anymore. None of that stuff's going on. And they can't ignore it now. They can't ignore that, people need help. They need, like you said, that second family thing. And that approach you take is really captivating to me. Because I never lived in that kind of a place. What was it like? What was it like growing up for you?
I mean, what it was like growing up for me is very, I won't say it's very different from our kids, but I will say that one difference that I see, like, across some of the students that we serve, that is very similar to my upbringing, is that I had a family intact.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe if your water got cut off, or, you didn't have food, or you knew if you came home from the school bus that your furniture and stuff might be in the front because you heard your parents talking and you didn't know, like, where you were going to live that night and things like that. That kind of stuff happens, right? But if you have a family in place and intact, you have somebody with you, and you're not alone, and it helps you, get through anything, right? And that's what it was like for me growing up, knowing that I had a mom and a dad and these 4 other siblings. We were a tribe, and we were together, and if anything happened, we worked through it together. But there are families, today and back then, that did not have that type of support. And so I think that experience of being able to climb out of poverty through education and through familial support is really how Future Foundation has been birthed, or was birthed, and really plays a large part into a lot of the strategies that, we execute today to help kids that, look like me and Sharif, have a similar experience to me and Sharif growing up.
Right. I mean, it sounds very much like the program or programs you have created with Future Foundation are really built around your own experience of whether it's your personal experience or the experience you saw around you growing up, which is interesting. How's your folks? Are your folks still around?
Yeah, everybody's still around. We've been doing family Zoom meetings. So things are going really well. And we've been blessed as individuals and as a family. And so I think one of the things our parents imparted, on us was to always give back.
Right.
Yeah, and so I think that's why Sharif founded Future Foundation. I think that's why I do this work, because I think that we've seen firsthand what support can do for individuals and families. I
Right.
mean, with our own families, we've seen what that support can mean, and so I think it's a familial value of ours to give back, and I think more people have to think like that and do that so that we can all be a greater society.
So you went to Berkeley and then discovered that, how you put it is, you were unprepared
Yes,
for the education they were prepared to give you out there.
exactly.
So how did you overcome that?
Wow. I would just say through resilience and hard work. I
Mhm.
mean, you get to a point where you just don't know what you don't know. And I remember being in a statistics class and not knowing pre-algebra, and the tutor like looking at me saying like, I don't even know how you got to Cal Berkeley and you don't know this. And I remember writing, and I remember like crying because like I didn't know I was supposed to know that. And then I remember writing a paper, and I wasn't separating the paragraphs. I was like writing the paper with, paragraphs not separated. And somebody said to me, like, what are you doing? Like,
Right.
you have to like separate your paragraphs. And my grammar was all over the place.
Right.
But these were not things that, I learned growing up in my school systems. And it didn't mean that like I wasn't intelligent or smart. It just meant that like I didn't get the fundamentals, right? Because I've since gone on and gotten 2 other degrees, and those were struggles too, because I didn't have some of the fundamentals. But what I've learned is like, you just can't give up, one. And then 2, everything is like an iterative process. Keep going through these different opportunities, and you learn through each opportunity, and you build your skills through the first master's program, or undergrad the first time. Then you go to your first master's program, you continue to build on that. Then you go to your third one and continue to build on that. So it's like an iterative process where you just
Right.
continue to grow and learn.
But that's a very savvy perspective, even as a college freshman, because college freshmen you're still a kid,
Mm-hmm.
you're still learning all kinds of stuff. But it's easy to have somebody say some of the things that were said to you and think, oh God, I'm just stupid. I'm never going to get this done. But to have the perspective, being in that situation, and say, well, just because I don't know, my grammar rules or my comma rules or my, algebra, I have trouble with this kind of algebra concept, doesn't make me dumb. It just makes me, I'm not familiar with those particular things. So you take the intelligence you have and apply it to that and get past it another way. Was there anybody who kind of helped you through that? Any mentors, any inspirational figures?
I mean, so I will initially say like undergrad, I didn't know the comma rules. People might have said I should have known this stuff. And initially, my perspective was just pure competitive. I mean, I'm an athlete. I've always been an athlete. And somebody tells me I can't do something or I shouldn't be somewhere, then from a competition standpoint, I just wanted to prove them wrong. So from a resilience, I'm going to not give up and move forward. That's what that was all about. But then when you start to get a little bit older, start to understand and build relationships with people, like mentors, and or peers, because I had peers around me who, came from South Central LA, and they were first time college attendees. Nobody in their family had graduated college either.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had them around me and they were my support system. So we all talked about, like, if one of us could do this, then we could all do it. And, you know, I had a roommate at the time who, she was from South Central LA. And we used to make bets, like, who had the highest grades. You know, we would have to, like, pay for someone's dinner or something like that. And that was really, you know, looking at all my peers around me who were like these first time college attendees, nobody in their families had graduated either. That really kind of gave me inspiration and planted a seed within me that, like, I could make it. And then, you know, my family, those were, I believe, my mentors. And then I just had some really great people at great times. I remember when I was applying or wanted to go to business school, I had a woman in a leadership program that I was in. I had just casually told her I wanted to go to business school, but I was scared about taking the GRE because it was a test, a standardized test. And yeah, I mean, I don't have the fundamentals to do that. So I was just scared about it. And she said, oh no, I'm going to walk you to admissions. And she ended up introducing me to the admissions officer. And I mean, they just made it at Emory. They just made it to where, you know, I felt competent, like I could apply and get in, and I did. And so I will always be grateful for Melissa Minningham, who introduced me to the admissions people at Emory. And I had a mentor who worked for a Fortune 500 company at the time, who literally, I would go to his office and bring my finance book and say, I need help with this. And he would show me how to do the different finance formulas and theories. And so, you know, I've had a number, and still do have a great number of mentors that have been instrumental to my personal development and growth, and also peer mentors.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, and this is something that maybe I didn't learn until much, much later in my life, is that don't be afraid to talk to people about what you're going through, what your challenges are, what you're trying to overcome, what you're trying to achieve. You know, it's not just ask for help. It's like, you know, talk about what's going on, whether it's with your peers or mentors, and you know, it's ask and ye shall receive, right? I mean, if people know that they can help you, a lot of times they will. So, and
you know, it's reciprocity, because even the mentees that I have now, who, you know, I've turned into a mentor of sorts, and my mentees help me now. So, you know, it's a relationship that really, to me, has a domino effect, where, you know, you're going to help somebody one day and they're going to come back and help you the next. And, you know, that's how you support each other throughout life.
Right. I mean, absolutely. And you talk about your family a lot. What are they doing? What are your other siblings doing now? We've talked about Sharif a little bit.
What are my other siblings doing? So Sharif is the president of the NBA G League, which is the NBA's developmental league, and is doing a really great job there. I have another younger brother who is the head coach at Kennesaw State, which is remarkable. And I have another younger brother who is an attorney and lives in Turkey.
Really?
And yes, and I have an older sister who lives in Arkansas and is an amazing math teacher and college professor.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So everybody's gone on to
different
levels of success in their fields. That's awesome.
Yes.
I mean, you really have kind of an inspiring story and an inspiring family, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you. But and one of the reasons I enjoy talking to you, because you make me feel like, you know, you make people feel like they can do anything. You really do.
Oh, well, thank you. I think that people can do anything. They can. You really can.
Yeah.
You really can.
So we have this pandemic stay-at-home order, risk of getting coronavirus situation in the world today, and your organization, the Future Foundation, at least historically, a lot of what you do is face-to-face with your the kids in the program, parents, mentors, volunteers, all that kind of stuff. How are you dealing with that now?
It's a great question. How are we dealing with? We're continuing programming. I think that the one thing that allowed us to adjust pretty quickly with this particular situation is that part of our work, part of our strategy was centered around data and information. And we've worked hard over the last couple of years to really build data and manage information related to our students. So when COVID-19 hit our community, it happened for us maybe a week earlier than everyone else, because some of the first cases in Georgia actually happened at the schools where our after-school sites are housed. So we closed down on March 9th. And by the following week, we had a plan in place that said, one, we are going to assess the needs of all of our families. So we have about 500 kids and families that we serve on a daily basis. We're going to assess the needs of those families, and from a case management perspective, understand who is at risk for not being able to meet basic needs like food, hygiene, supplies, like going out to be able to get Lysol and bleach, and then kids who did not have access to hardware or connectivity. So we were able to do that assessment rather quickly and come up with, understanding about 60% of our kids fell into those categories of not being able to access those basic needs. So we've been providing a lot of services around getting basic needs to about 60% of our kids. Right. In addition to that, we've been supporting all of our kids through virtual learning. So making sure that they are getting online and getting those lessons from their teachers. And we've also been delivering enrichment lessons virtually. So a lot of our team, we're trained on social and emotional enrichment activities. And then our team has just been creative with, just getting our kids engaged and doing enrichment activities. So really our work is continuing, but just in a virtual atmosphere.
Yeah, it's just shifted. How are the kids responding to it?
They're responding. One of the things how we communicate at Future Foundation is through Slack, and a lot of our team members send pictures via Slack. So I sometimes just get on Slack to get encouraged, because there's just an amazing bank of pictures in there where you have kids virtually learning. You have these testimonials from parents who are saying, I just thank you. I didn't know what I was going to do for food this week, and you guys just came through and really helped me. So, if anybody ever wanted to do a documentary on, the effect or things that happened during COVID, if they went into our Slack account and saw those pictures and some testimonials and stuff, they really get a good understanding of what was happening in communities of need.
Yeah, it's interesting. We're seeing so much. I'm seeing, at least in my own community and extended virtual network of people. I think maybe it's because things have slowed down, or seem to have slowed down, or we just have more time in our homes and around each other, that we're we're doing those personal connection things, even virtually, that we kind of skipped over a lot before this. Just listening a little better, paying attention a little more. Literally, I saw an article the other day about, what can you say that's better than how you doing? But, you're asking how you doing, but you really mean it, as opposed to before, maybe it was just a conversational space holder. So that's good. We're also seeing, at least statistically, that communities of color are being disproportionately impacted by the virus. What's your experience with that? Because that's your community is in the heart of a lot of that.
This is not, so COVID-19 is clearly new, but the African American community being impacted by health challenges is nothing new. I think that what this pandemic is doing is just highlighting and bringing to the forefront issues of inequities, not just with health, but also with finances. You have a lot of small businesses owned by African Americans, and they're just also not being able to take advantage of the funding avenues that are out there for them, because many of them are sole proprietorships and things like that. And so I think what COVID-19 is doing overall is just highlighting a lot of the inequities that exist in communities of color. And even with, immigration, and a lot of immigrants are tax-paying citizens, but they're hurting right now because they aren't able to take advantage of stimulus checks. And so again, I just think that these inequities have been happening and people have been suffering. And I think because people are home and because people are paying attention, they're starting to get an understanding of what people are going through that don't look like them perhaps. And I hope the silver lining in all of this is that through this kind of education, people are developing a little empathy in their hearts around the plight of those that are less fortunate.
Well, from your lips to all of us, all of our ears, I hope that's true. I'm seeing it in at least in small ways here and there, and I think a lot of these things you say are sort of getting highlighted. There's you talk about small businesses and sole proprietors. The Small Business Administration defines a small business as a business with 500 employees or less. And maybe there are businesses out there with 500 employees that feel and act like small businesses, but it doesn't, it seems a little big to me. So, those are things that I think need to be paid attention to. Set aside the fact that these large chain restaurants are getting massive loans, they say.
It's happening.
It's the field is tilted in certain ways and has been for a long time. So, if this can raise some awareness among people who maybe maybe thought everything was equitable and just thought it was just fine, and are realizing that it's not, maybe that's a good thing that comes out of all this craziness. How's everybody health-wise?
Everyone is well. Excellent.
Yeah. That's very, very good to hear.
Everyone is well.
So there's going to be, no doubt, a new normal on the other side of this, and things are going to be different. What do you, and I know I wrote this question down, and I'm going to scratch it off because I know how you're going to answer it. Knowing you as just a little bit that I do know of you, the question was, do you see all these changes as a threat or an opportunity?
Oh, you know how I'm going to answer.
I know exactly how you're going to answer that. So what do you have in mind where there's a new normal that's gonna create itself on the far end of this?
I mean, it's so many opportunities, even from an organizational standpoint. I have a board member who's been pressing me for at least the last 2 years about thinking about how we take some of our curriculum virtually and support, a broader array of students, not just in Georgia, but perhaps globally. He's like, a lot of kids across the world could benefit from, some of the curriculum and activities that you do. How do you think about how you take this approach of being a second family to kids globally and virtually? So, and we're always too busy to explore innovation sometimes, and those special initiatives. So I think this will, give us the opportunity to do that. And that's kind of small organizationally, but from a big picture standpoint, what I'm hoping is not lost is that this fact that I feel like our humanity is recalibrated, and I'm hoping that that's not lost, and that the empathy that has grown in people's hearts, the kindness that we see from kids and their parents and people giving to one another now, I'm hoping that that's not lost. That's our biggest opportunity. We were, I believe, completely divided for many reasons. And I think that this situation has torn down those barriers of division. And I think that's our biggest opportunity as humans, is to not forget to be kind and not forget to be together.
Right. Well, so Qaadirah, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. I wish you well, and I wish the Future Foundation well also, because you're doing amazing work up there.
Thank you. Stay safe and healthy.
Likewise.
So that was Qaadirah Abdur Rahim from the Future Foundation in Atlanta. She and her team and her brother Sharif are doing extraordinary things up there to change and help their community and give back. And we laugh about it a little bit, the idea of scaling it to every neighborhood around the country who needs it. But it's not really a joke. It's something I think that could really be done and could really help education throughout America. I really enjoyed the conversation. I hope you did too. Thanks for listening, and be careful out there. When you lose something you can't replace. If you find yourself enjoying the Story Forge podcast, please give us a review at Apple Podcasts, or we're on Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. It helps others find the show and hopefully enjoy it as much as you do. All recording, editing, and executive producing tasks are handled by yours truly, Lyle Smith of Nimblesmith, the content marketing agency. This podcast would not be possible without the sincerely excellent help of our friend and associate producer Anthony Sergi, who produces numerous podcasts, including the truly excellent A Guest in the House about all things hip-hop. The music on the podcast was provided by Jody Nardone and the Jody Nardone Trio, Lights Will Guide You Home album. And if you'd like to send us questions or feedback or suggestions for other subjects or guests, you can reach us through the Story Forge website. That's thestoryforge.com, all words separated by hyphens. Or you can email us at cheers@nimblesmith.com, spelled NYMBLESMITH. Thanks very much. But if you never try, you never know just what you were.